Welcome to the Capital Spreads Weekly Look Ahead. Today is Tuesday, the 12th of March 2013. We've had a very flat start to this week, but of course the previous week we had some very impressive gains for global indices, in particular the US. The Dow is making day after day new record highs, and that's just rubbing off a little bit on European indices. So FTSE doing quite well. It's at 6,500. The Dow's at 14,415. The risk appetite in equity markets hasn't really translated into further strength for the single currency. Euro-dollar's having a bit of a battle around the 1.3 level, so that's where it's trading roughly at the moment. Sterling has seen severe depreciation throughout the year, actually, and of course the recent downgrade to the AAA credit rating has sort of exaggerated that move. That's pushed it even lower, well below the 1.5 level now for cable. It's at 148.70. Gold has been relatively flat in all. It's at 1590, and Brent is at 111 on the figure. So yesterday very quiet, and in fact really quite a quiet week for the markets in terms of the economic data and the calendar in that respect. Things should possibly get a little bit more interesting with the EU summit later this week, but yesterday really very little to report. The markets sort of pretty much drifted sideways, and they remain very well supported from last week's non-farm payroll data, which was very impressive. Also saw in the US a drop in unemployment. So it would seem that that has done well to keep sentiment towards the markets pretty bullish, but the overall picture still remains pretty mixed, and we saw that today for in the case of the UK. Industrial production much worse than expected. Not a huge surprise, in honesty. The weak PMI surveys really have indicated that industrial and manufacturing production would possibly come in weaker, and that was confirmed by today's number. We also had the trade balance, which was a little bit narrower than expected. Then tomorrow we get EU industrial production. That's a bit of a theme of the week. Probably one of the highlights of this week will be US retail sales tomorrow. They're expected to rise. And then, as mentioned, I should imagine the main focus will come on Thursday with the commencement of the EU summit. Now, that's going to be interesting for a number of reasons, purely because there's going to be quite a few new faces at this EU summit. There's new leaders of Slovenia, Malta, Cyprus, and an interim leader for Bulgaria. There's no change at the top for Italy because of the political stalemate there. So Mario Monti will represent Italy at the summit, but that country is likely to be the main focal point for this summit. What sort of resolution can be forthcoming for the recent elections, which of course led to no outright leader? And that uncertainty does seem to be rumbling on a little bit. It has seen Italian borrowing costs just rise in the last few days. So that's keeping the euro, any gains for the euro capped, and maybe just keeping equity investors on their toes somewhat. So that's certainly going to be a focal point for the rest of this week. Also on Thursday we get the weekly initial jobless claims, and also from the US PPI data. And then we end off on Friday, a focus on the US CPI numbers, industrial production from there as well, and wrap things up with the University of Michigan confidence data. So really rather a quiet week, focus on Europe and whether this equity market can continue in this rather, from a technical point of view, rather bullish, what would seem rather a bullish trend. That's it for this week. As ever, do give us feedback, media@capitalspreads.com.